assume you guys are probably the same in high school, that academic side of things, I really didn't want anything to do with it. Like, get me out in the shop.
I always joke that's how I ended up in the trades, right? I hated the classroom. I always hated the classroom.
Yeah, I always wanted to be working, doing that kind of stuff. So
I liked home ec because that's where the girls were.
I found it kind of comical because I always had a feeling when I was in high school, what is the value of what I'm learning? Because it seemed so broad spectrum. It was so diverse. Some of the stuff I was like, well, when would I use this? And it was very literally almost no instructors that said, this is why this is. And it seems like with the intelligent education system, they kind of, I would assume they kind of direct the students into areas that they've shown competency in.
That's what I would like to know is, do they do that? Do they come up to you and like, we would strongly recommend that you take the trades? Like, this seems to be more of your
that is something that's common in European countries where they'll actually do like
an evaluation or
competency would be the word they would use, but I mean it would be geared towards trying to find out what your interests were and then trying to push you into a direction that would potentially, allow that interest to be blossomed into a career, right? For lack of a better way to put it.
So Manuela, I keep messing up her name, Manuela, kind of talked about that to an extent about the high school.
Okay. So hi to everyone. I'm Manuela, and I come from Trento, a small city in the north of Italy. And I recently moved 6 years ago to Milan to study medicine. And at the moment, I'm at my 6th year of university. And I hopefully will graduate in June. I'm working on my thesis now, but a part of these 6 years here in Milan, I always lived in Trento, more or less. You are at the end of your middle school. At least this is what happened in my school, but I know that in my region, everyone does this. There are the professors that have a talk with you. They kind of try to understand what are your dreams in your life, and they put together your abilities, and they tell you what in their opinion is better for you as educational path. You can decide to listen to them or go by your choices. But in practice, anyone could choose between some choices. So there is the scientific high school that has its main attention on science, but in practice, so I explain everything and then I explain little points of each of these. So you either have scientific high school, then there is scientific high school, more scientific, more applied. Then there is language high school. Then there is classic high school, that it's more concentrated on literature and writing. And then you have artistic high school. Then you have some more social high school that in practice, when you do that, it's more concentrated in making you become a teacher. And then you have some more practical, not high school, it's not called high school, it's more, how do you say that? Institutions that help you getting the experience in like to become a carpenter or an electrician, etc. And then, sorry, I forgot, there is another high school that is more informatic, more technical.
Like that's legit cool though. Like when you think about it, it would be great right up until you got put down the wrong path. Like I can only imagine what would end up happening with that. Can you imagine? Yeah, I think this is what I really want to be. And I don't know if you're committed to it, or if you can switch, or if you can jump back and forth. I don't know if she mentioned that or not, but can you imagine being stuck in the wrong? It's like, I got 3 more years of this sucks.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can't
and
imagine.
she actually did talk about that, because that was exactly her experience. She said she started down one path and then changed her mind, and then switched paths, and so they do have.
And she was allowed to change her mind.
And do they have like core competencies that go all the way across the board?
So that was the other thing that she touched on, was exactly that these individual tracks that you can take still have this batch of core subjects that kind of is the same throughout, and then the rest is a little bit more extreme of our options, right? Adding on.
So you're not losing an entire year of your life like it never existed. You still get something out of it.
Right. Yeah. The one thing that she said that I hadn't seen in other information I'd seen was that some of them only do 3 years.
Yeah.
And then they go to work.
Yeah, you have to go until you're 16, right? But it
Yeah.
can be up till you're 19. A lot of
Yeah.
them is what
So
I was
that-
reading anyway.
That third year is kind of the important one. So that third year is where they start, and Eric and I were looking at that just a bit ago, where they start looking at the credits, and that starts accumulating for those finals. Those, written and oral finals.
Finals, which you can get a maximum of 45 points out of the actual written and oral finals, and then you can fill up to the maximum 100 by your credits.
Yeah, you think about that,
Attain out there.
that's a lot of stress, right? Like that's a lot that's on one. It's
One of the things that I didn't ask her, I mean, you guys probably see it in your programs as well, as stress or anxiety, right?
really
Like
huge.
students and anxiety just seems to be getting worse and worse.
No kidding. Yeah.
How do you do something like those oral presentations if the anxiety levels are up there already? Like, do they not have that? And maybe that's a follow-up question I should send her.
And it is kind of interesting, like the thought process is now that we are trying to find ways to reduce barriers for people that are suffering from anxieties like that, or from any other kind of potential, anything that could cause an issue with them taking the examination. So it makes me wonder what paths they've gone down to kind of combat stuff like that there.
Yeah.
Too, right? Like, do they allow them to do, a presentation like we're doing and submit it? Would that be something that would be allowed there?
So from what I saw from the videos I watched and from talking with Manuela, is that it's your presentation is only part of it. So the one thing she mentioned was you wanted to make sure your presentation was engaging, because if your presentation was engaging, then the likelihood was that the professors, as she always referred to them as professors, even in high school and elementary or junior high, the professors would ask you questions. And those professors, if your presentation was engaging, those professors were more likely to ask you questions from your presentation.
Oh.
And if your presentation was
They
disinteresting,
go outside the box.
Yeah.
then they might ask you
Try and
questions
stump you. Try and stump you.
Yeah. And so
Interesting.
she's like, we really worked to make sure they're entertaining or not engaging. She ended up not finishing high school there. She finished high school, and I'd have to go back check. I think it was Ireland.
Oh.
And so she didn't have to go through that. She did the final steps there. And what she did was very much like us. You have math, you have a math test. You have English, you have an English test.
Yeah.
And that's the way that went. But it is kind of interesting to look at it and think like that oral presentation, everything I've seen about it and what she talked about was that it's taking, so if you went down that literature track or scientific track, it's taking that piece and you're applying it to every other subject you took, tying it back to that. So if you're talking about, I don't know, the invention of penicillin, right? And you're tying that back to history, right? And then you're tying that back to culture, and then you're tying that back to geography, and then you're tying that back to mathematics. And you're like, so you're drawing all these parallels and kind of, it was kind of interesting. And part of me thought, man, that sounds like just being able to stand up there and BS. I could do that really, really well, but
Yeah, but except the guy who's judging you probably has a fairly good.
Yeah, that's the
Right.
biggest problem.
Yeah. So it was fascinating to see that side of it. So I imagine when they enter high school, they're starting to look at things very differently because they know that this is the end thing, is they're going to have to do this presentation.
Well, you know, like from the standpoint of looking at where we're at with post-secondary, I think that they would have a different mindset to it than many of the students that we'd see here coming from Canada, because here in Canada, there's often, you know, you can kind of go to college, feel it out, maybe take a few exploratory courses, kind of get a feel for it. And it kind of seems like you're pretty driven there. Like you would already have like if you were going in that path, you're going there and you're
it's a commitment,
done,
right?
Yeah.
So it makes me wonder how they would view, you know, kind of that other approach that we kind of take here. At least there's some students.
Well, they probably love it. Some of them, man, it's really laid back.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, is it laid back though, or would like if you were used to that strict kind of adherent, and then all of a sudden they kind of go, well, you can present this in any way you feel free, right? Like however you want to, and then like for somebody who's got all these rules and regulations and maybe how it had to be done a specific way, and all of a sudden do it however you want, I would find that intimidating.
And it could be bad, right? Because a lot of people need that guidance, and maybe if they don't have that guidance, then they're just like, I don't know where to start.
Like from a structured to kind of a
Yeah.
more open.
Yeah.
That would blow my mind.
Yeah. Culturally, is it just different, right? Like, I mean, if we think about Canada, we're often thought of as that timid country that apologizes for everything, right? And is it different than Italy? Like, are they just more kind of that arts background, the expressiveness, like all of that? Does that just play into their culture, and so something like that is more natural?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've got to realize that their culture is a lot older than ours. So over time, it's just more structured, considerably more structured.
Yeah,
we're relatively new if you think about the big picture, right? So
well, they have some of the most. Well, they have the oldest probably universities in the world. You think about it, really? You know,
and we're kind of getting to this point now when we look at the RAP program, at least, right? At least we're showing people in high school, hey, this is a different option. You're not just going to get thrown into the trades because you didn't do well in high school. You're going to get an option to see what the trades are like and pick this path earlier, which is kind of what they do, I guess, in a roundabout way. A little bit, but yeah.
So did she talk at all about any of the challenges that she found adjusting to a different style of education? Because is she a university student or
not? So she's actually still in Italy. I hadn't realized that when I took the interview this morning. So if I understood correct, it was like 3:30 in the afternoon there, 8 o'clock in the morning here. So I had assumed that she was here at the U of L or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I thought. She was doing a master's at the U of L.
So her out of country experience was her high school, and I can jump to that.
Instead, in high school, it's a bit more difficult because at the end of the 5th year of high school, you have to do your tesina, is called. It's like a small thesis. And I think they make this kind of tesina, little thesis, to then open you to university. And basically, it's the same concept. You choose the topic you want to talk about, and it has to be something very interesting, something creative. The more creative, the better. And then you connect various other topics. I remember that my sister brought light, and so she connected philosophy, history, then she connected art, and all the art, all the pictures, paintings where there was light or where there was not light. Then obviously physics, science, like there is a lot of stuff. The more you can connect and the more you know about the topic, the more the professor is keen to ask you about the topic. Otherwise, he goes out of the topic and then you're a bit lost there, because they could actually ask you anything also this exam. And obviously, you had studied for the 5 years. Otherwise, you wouldn't pass that easily, the 5 years. But it's I would say that more than a way to see if you're actually ready on everything, is a way to see if you're ready to sustain an exam, to confront the real life. Because now, so I have to say also, I didn't do this exam because I graduated in Ireland. That's why I cannot talk so much about my experience on this. In Ireland, it's completely different. In Ireland, you choose your studying, you choose your program. I chose biology, physics, chemistry, English, German, and maths. So 6 subjects. And then you do an exam, a full exam, like 4 hours exam on each topic. And so that's why it's a bit different. Instead, in Italy, there is this oral, but is from friends and family. It's a hard work. And I can say that both ways are hard because you have an oral on one side and you have the written on the other side. But the point is basically the same, like preparing to university, etc.
And we can probably head towards a bit of a wrap up.
Oh, we're recording.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna-
So thinking about that, if we have an Italian student coming to Lethbridge College, would we do anything different?
I see, we're starting, I mean, I know in our department, we're really pushing the electronics and using the Apple TV down in the shop to, you know, show things to the students right there in the shop, also integrated into the class. So I see the similarities to that as well. And, you know, for myself, we try and stay pretty structured on the schedule. But I think you have to be that way in the trades, right? Like
Yeah, I don't know that the trades really offers us to make much
there's not a
change.
lot
I
of
mean,
flexibility.
you come into the class, doesn't matter where you're from, you're gonna get the same, right? I mean, I don't know how to cater. I don't think we do personally in the trades, but
Well, would you have to, like, I mean, language could be a barrier, but it doesn't sound like that would be one.
well, not to, no, not to.
Technology could be a barrier, but again, you know, is that something that we could accommodate them? Yeah, absolutely. We were dealing with students that had very little skill with technology. Most of the trade students are more of a hands-on approach to technology and computers. Some of us like it, but most of us look at it like it's switchcraft. And so we were able to get them online. We were able to get them up and running. So I feel like that would, and of course, you know, Lethbridge College having a wide array of things that are available to students should they not have the funds or the ability. Like, I think a lot of the barriers, the work's being done for us.
Yeah.
It's already, a lot of the stuff
Yeah.
is being taken down so that the students have access to it. And I think that that's probably done with international students in mind, probably a lot of the times. Yeah. So I don't know specifically that as a program, we would have to do anything specific, but I think I would keep an open mind to making changes that were required on a as per needed basis, basically.
I don't think we can just go change our curriculum and stuff just because, right? I mean,
Not the curriculum, but you could change delivery methods.
to a little,
Yeah,
to an
And I think
extent.
if you're aware of the programs available to students here, then yeah, sure, we may not have to do it, but we can say, okay, go down and see this person down
Yeah.
there, they can take care of.
They can help.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even if I gotta walk you down there, we can, because we actually had a student from Mexico who was struggling with our first Canvas set of tests. He struggled with it, so we had to go and readapt it for him just so he could get his feet under with Canvas.
With the reading comprehension, or what did he struggle with?
Yeah, with that.
Yeah.
So we got that all sorted out with him. We got them all figured out. There was a couple of translation devices that we were able to work with him with, and boom, took it. And now he's
That's another thing, right? Like those translation devices, there is no barriers anymore as far as.
Yeah.
Well, as long as you're willing to, like, if you can take a look at it and say, okay, here's something that needs to be removed, and you're willing to look for a solution to that problem, I think there's absolutely zero problems adapting to any student in the classroom. But you just have to be adaptable. I think that's the key word. Being willing to adapt.
Yeah. And you know, not to bring up another point that we could go on for hours about, but one of the interesting things I'd seen in another video that I asked her about was timetable. So they tend to go to school 6 days a week. But for a much shorter period of time. In fact, usually from 8 till 1:15 or 8 till noon, 8 till 11, something like that. When they're in their maybe the more arts and academic side of things. On the trades side of things, or those people that were more geared towards getting to work, they were like 5 days a week, but longer periods of time. So keeping that in mind, and I mean, different cultures approach their days differently.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
And so the fact that we might be used to that 8 to 5, you know, there's something to be said, even from a just Canadian educational perspective, about students learning in the morning.
Right,
Yeah.
right. It is brilliant, even though you lose that day. Learning in the mornings when you're gonna do your best learning, right? Like,
Yeah,
look at our students. If you get them
Yeah.
after lunch,
Well,
like
yeah,
it's like
it's-
talking to
yeah.
zombies.
There's a reason why they have siestas, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's an absolute reason to it. It's because by the time you've had that food, now your energy is being devoted to digesting it, and like, you're just not there anymore.
And you've been sitting for 4 hours already, and you don't want to sit for another 2 hours, and you're at a point. Well, personally, that would be me, right? Like, I don't want to do this anymore, right? Like, I know I have to, but I don't want to.
and so I guess for myself, it was a kind of a reminder of like, maybe it's not so much what we teach, but keeping track of when we teach it, right? Like if we got something important that we need to drive home, we want to get that first. Let's get to it, get it done, so they get that point. We can do some of the more menial stuff
Yeah, you know,
later on, right?
that's a great point for an international student too. Yeah, I wouldn't even thought of that, but that's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, our students here are 100% used to having to be focused, well, whether they are or not. But they're absolutely used to
Having to be
they
present.
Should be focused for the entire period of that. But if you were coming from somewhere else where that wasn't something that was, you know, expected of you, and then all of a sudden be like in a classroom and you have to sit there and pay attention until 3:30. Oh man, that'd be hard. Yeah, that's a really good point. I'm actually thinking, well, we haven't had a lot of international students in our class, but it would definitely be something.
Just students in general, that's a way to look at it. Be like, okay, maybe I get the hard stuff out there now, and then the afternoon, maybe that's where we deal with that.
Or even, and I think I see this in a lot of the trades programs at the college, where a lot of the time the classroom stuff is in the morning.
Yeah, and then
Yeah,
shops
go
in
to
the
the shop,
afternoon.
Take it to a lab, working with your hands.
Yeah, get mobile, moving around, get some energy back, that kind of thing, instead of having to sit in a chair.
Yeah.
I see it differently because I'm mostly in the classroom, and we start at 1 o'clock. So by 5 o'clock, then it's like, we don't dare show a video, because if I shut the lights off, I'm gonna come back to a dead room. But it was a reminder for me, even in that scenario, that look, we've probably got a window from 1 to 3, where if I got some important information, that's the time
That's the moment.
to get it to them, because after that, it's gonna start becoming less effective.
Valid point.
It was very interesting. I can post a link maybe to the rest of that video.
Yeah, I'd love to
for
watch
those
that.
that were wanting to watch it, and get some more information from that. So
Perfect.
I think that wraps it up.
Yeah, I think so.
Appreciate you taking the time
Yeah,
to do that.
thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thank
Well, thank you guys. It's been fun.